Most people believe consciousness is merely thought, that the voice narrating their existence is identical to the awareness experiencing it. But Buddha uncovered something far more transformative. The mind is a tempest, and you are the vast sky beyond it. The tempest churns with memories, anxieties, daydreams, debates you've rehearsed countless times, aspirations that never materialize, and concerns that endlessly multiply. It's as if the mind is obsessed with generating noise simply to prove its own existence. The instant you wake up, thoughts flood in before you've even opened your eyes. What time is it? Why did they say that? Why am I still trapped? What if today falls apart? But if you pause, if you genuinely observe, you'll notice something peculiar. You didn't select these thoughts. They simply emerged like clouds drifting across the horizon, uninvited. And Buddha understood something we're rarely taught. If thoughts surface on their own, how can they possibly be you? You don't command what emerges. You only become entangled in what emerges. The world today is noisier, more rapid, and more overwhelming than ever before. Yet the fundamental human suffering hasn't shifted since Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree. We confuse the tempest for the sky, and in doing so, we lose sight of who we truly are. By this video's conclusion, you'll grasp what Buddha witnessed when he ceased battling the mind and started observing it, and why that transformation is the distinction between suffering and awakening. If you're prepared to perceive your mind with fresh eyes, stay until the end. Long before he became the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama existed in a palace constructed to protect him from truth, a realm of ease, opulence, and perpetual distraction, designed to keep him unconscious within the fantasy that pleasure could rescue him from discomfort. But even enveloped by splendor, he could sense something restless within, a delicate dissatisfaction, a silent ache, a yearning that comfort couldn't fulfill. And when he finally ventured beyond the palace gates and witnessed illness, aging, and mortality, something fractured inside him. It wasn't the vulnerability of existence that devastated him. It was the understanding that the mind couldn't embrace what is. The mind denies impermanence. The mind opposes change. The mind grasps on to what must ultimately crumble. The mind battles reality, and that battle is suffering. In that instant, Siddhartha didn't awaken to some universal mystery. He awakened to the agony of being imprisoned inside a mind that doesn't understand how to be quiet. He understood he wasn't suffering because of existence. He was suffering because of the narratives his mind was weaving about existence. And this was his first profound realization. The mind builds the cage, then forgets it constructed the bars. The true liberation isn't fleeing from life, it's looking inward to discover the barriers you didn't know existed. Buddha frequently described the monkey mind, a turbulent, impetuous consciousness that leaps from thought to thought, clutching, dismissing, desiring, dreading, never content, never peaceful. He stated, "The mind is like a monkey stung by a bee, intoxicated by wine, possessed by a spirit, and laughing one instant only to shriek the next." If you've ever experienced an anxious evening where your mind fabricates problems from nothing, or replayed a dialogue from years past until you experience the anguish all over again, you've encountered the monkey mind. The tragedy is this: the monkey speaks with your own voice. It masquerades as you. It declares, "I'm worthless," and you accept it. It announces, "They dislike me," and you submit to it. It proclaims, "I will never transform," and you echo it like a prediction. Buddha understood that suffering isn't produced by the world. Suffering is produced by the mind responding to the world. The mind is perpetually opposing what is occurring, evaluating it, reconstructing it, exaggerating it, assigning significance to it, and converting neutral circumstances into emotional tempests. Buddha didn't teach that thoughts are wicked. He taught that identification with thoughts is the source of suffering. When you trust the monkey, you transform into the monkey. When you watch the monkey, you become the authority. Buddha deconstructed the illusion of self into 5 elements called the 5 aggregates: form, sensation, perception, mental constructions, and consciousness. And he posed a question that genuinely demolished the foundation of human identity. Which of these is the authentic you? Form, the physical body, transforms every instant. Sensation, agreeable, disagreeable, neutral, emerges and vanishes. Perception, your interpretations adjust based on temperament, recollection, and conditioning. Mental constructions, thoughts, motivations, responses materialize automatically. Consciousness, the awareness of experience, wavers and shifts with every instant of contact. Buddha recognized that none of these elements is steady, lasting, or manageable. And if something is perpetually changing, how can it be a stable self? If something can be witnessed, how can it be the one conducting the witnessing? This was the revolutionary insight. Nothing you can indicate is you. Not your physical form, not your recollections, not your character, not your wounds, not your accomplishments, not your anxieties, not your thoughts. You are the awareness in which all these phenomena appear, and the awareness in which all these phenomena vanish. The self you believe you are is a psychological mosaic assembled by the mind. But the observer behind the mosaic has never altered. When you begin recognizing this, suffering releases its hold. Under the Bodhi tree, Siddhartha didn't quiet his thoughts. He witnessed them. That was his method. Not coercion, not repression, not domination, but observation. He observed desires ascend like flames and recede into the void. He observed fear expand like a wave and disintegrate into nothingness. He observed memories float through him like drifting clouds. He observed fantasies tempt him, guilt reproach him, and uncertainty assault him. And he acknowledged that none of these thoughts possessed power unless he attached to them. When he ceased responding, the thoughts depleted their energy. When he ceased identifying, the thoughts forfeited their command. When he ceased accepting, the thoughts surrendered their existence. Buddha's awakening wasn't the elimination of thoughts. It was the conclusion of identification with them. He transitioned from I am thinking to thinking is occurring. That subtle transition is enlightenment in embryonic form. Modern existence instructs us to multitask, respond immediately, remain stimulated, stay occupied, and stay diverted. Yet Buddha uncovered freedom in the contrary direction. When you observe the mind without criticism, something extraordinary occurs. A space emerges. Inside that space, you uncover a stillness you've carried your whole life, a tranquility deeper than emotion, a lucidity untouched by turmoil. The mind transforms into a film, and you cease confusing yourself for the protagonist. One of the most misinterpreted teachings in Buddhism is Anatta, no self. This doesn't imply you don't exist. It signifies the version of you that you accept as real is actually a temporary fabrication. Buddha perceived that the I we protect so intensely is merely a collection of patterns, thoughts, recollections, inclinations, anxieties, and responses, none of which remain constant from moment to moment. You're not the identical person you were 5 years earlier, or even yesterday. The you grasp onto is a photograph in an album of thousands of developing identities. But the awareness of these identities? That has never shifted. Buddha didn't annihilate the self. He exposed that the self was never an object to begin with. The self is a verb, not a noun, a progression, not a solid substance. And once you comprehend this, you no longer must defend an identity, shield it, rationalize it, or continuously validate it. You can finally exhale. The liberation of Anatta is this. When there is no concrete self to defend, every moment becomes an opportunity to begin anew. You shed the burden of me and acquire the lucidity of awareness. You perceive life as it is, not as the ego requires it to be. And in that lucidity, suffering evaporates like fog in sunlight. You know, many people misinterpret the Buddhist concept of emptiness, envisioning it as, well, a frigid vacuum, a type of spiritual detachment, or perhaps even disconnection from existence. But to Buddha, emptiness wasn't the elimination of meaning. It was actually the elimination of distortion. When you strip away the classifications, projections, presumptions, anxieties, and evaluations your mind superimposes onto reality, you get to experience existence directly. A tree is no longer beneficial, harmful, functional, obstructive, attractive, or mundane. It simply exists. That's simplicity. That's emptiness. It signifies your mind isn't congested by interpretation anymore. Emptiness is the interval between stimulus and response, where you get to select your direction. Emptiness is perceiving life without the oppressive veil of "this should be otherwise." Emptiness is awareness liberated from attachment, where phenomena are permitted to emerge and fade organically. In this interval, thoughts relinquish their adhesiveness. Emotions relinquish their hold. Fear? Well, it relinquishes its fangs. Emptiness isn't nothingness. Emptiness is liberation. The liberation to experience reality without being confined by your own mental narration. When Buddha understood this, the world didn't become gray. It actually became more vivid than ever. The colors intensified. The sounds are enriched. Life unveiled itself in a way only unobstructed awareness can perceive. And that identical clarity exists within you. It's simply concealed behind the clamor of thought. Awakening isn't something that exclusively occurs on a mountaintop. It occurs in traffic, in disputes, in heartache, in dialogues, in those ordinary moments when life genuinely challenges you. Buddha didn't awaken so you could venerate him. He awakened to demonstrate that you can awaken too. Imagine you're in the midst of a dispute, and suddenly a voice in your head announces, "They're disrespecting you." That's not you. That's the monkey mind. Or imagine you're browsing social media and a thought emerges, "Everyone is progressing better than me." That's not you. That's simply the mental construction of comparison. Maybe you're isolated at night replaying an error from years ago, and a voice murmurs, "You'll never recover from this." That's not you. That's memory masquerading as identity. Everyday awakening means capturing these thoughts in action. When you witness them instead of following them, something genuinely powerful transpires. The thought forfeits its power and you reclaim yours. That is the genesis of wisdom. That is the genesis of liberation. You cease being a marionette manipulated by invisible threads. You cease reacting and begin responding. You cease sinking and begin floating. One instant of awareness can disrupt a lifetime of unconscious patterns. And if this message connects with you, that signifies awakening is already unfolding. Continue watching. The most profound insight is still approaching. So who is it that perceives your thoughts? Who is it that recognizes your emotions ascending and descending? Who is it that witnesses the breath, the heartbeat, the world materializing through the senses moment by moment? That is the witness, the one Buddha identified as the open, shapeless awareness behind all experience. This witness isn't a person, not a personality, not an identity. It doesn't age, doesn't fear, doesn't crave. It simply exists. When you were 5 years old, your thoughts were distinct. Your convictions were distinct. Your preferences were distinct. Yet something within was aware the entire duration. The identical awareness observing your life unfold from the background. Thoughts shift. Feelings vary. Identity develops. Awareness endures. That awareness isn't yours. It is what you are. When Buddha awakened, he didn't uncover a new self. He uncovered the absence of self, revealing the dimension of consciousness that had always been present. This is why awakening feels like recollecting, not acquiring knowledge. You're not becoming something novel. You're acknowledging something timeless. When you settle as the witness, life ceases to beg so personal. You no longer collapse into your thoughts. You observe them wash through you like waves. You no longer grasp onto emotion. You permit it to ascend and descend like the tide. You cease being the tempest and remember you are the sky. Buddha's enlightenment, it wasn't some cosmic occurrence. It was the quiet acknowledgement that everything he believed he was had never been genuine. He didn't become divine. He became liberated. Liberated from grasping, liberated from fear, liberated from the mind's delusions, liberated from the narrative of me, and you can experience that identical liberation every time you withdraw and declare, I am witnessing this thought. In that instant, the enchantment shatters. Suffering loosens its hold. Awareness reclaims its sovereignty. You begin to respond to life from clarity, compassion, and stability, rather than fear, ego, or impulse. This is the essence of Buddha's teaching. Suffering concludes when identification concludes. You don't repair the mind. You cease accepting everything it declares. You don't silence the mind. You cease confusing it for yourself. This is the liberation Buddha desired for you. The liberation already present in the dimension of awareness, listening to these words. If this message opened something within you, if it helped you perceive your thoughts rather than drown in them, let me know. Like the video, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to wake up from the illusion of their mind. Because this is not the conclusion of your journey. It's the beginning of perceiving everything with new eyes. Awakening isn't somewhere you travel. It's something you acknowledge. And now you're closer than ever.